Home Assistant has quickly become my favorite application within my home server, and dare I say, the most useful, followed up closely by my streaming applications. Since my last Home Assistant video when I first tried it out and installed those SmartWing shades, we've done quite a bit. We've added a bunch of random devices, we've changed how it's set up, and at this point, almost everything in this home is somehow all integrated together. Is it perfect? No. Is it complete? No. Have I even customized my dashboard? No. But I have done quite a bit, and I do want to show you what I have going on with the automations associated with the devices that I have. And just a disclaimer out of the gate, this video doesn't have a sponsor, but Aquara. These guys did send over a bunch of things. They wanted me to check out their smart deadbolt, and since they had a bunch of things that I wanted to actually use, I asked for them, and they sent over a care package, so thank you to them. The Aquara devices I purchased myself were the window and door sensor, as well as some of the wall switches. Everything else they kind of sent over. And of course, and as you'll see in this video, Aquara isn't the only devices I have. I have a bunch of other things, and we will be covering that with a whole tour of the entire smart home. But first, we are going to talk about the actual device running my instance of Home Assistant, how it's running, and the main protocol in which I am using. This right here is Proxmox. Yes, Proxmox is back up and running in my home lab environment. It is running on the Lottie Panda Sigma single board computer here. This single board computer is absolutely ridiculous. I did cover it in the past, and if we jump over here to this specific instance of Proxmox, go over here to summary, you can see it is running the 13th gen Intel i5 1340p. Definitely overpowered for just a Home Assistant instance, but you can see here I'm also running Plex, and I do have room to expand. The main protocol for all of these devices here is Zigbee, and I did make a change within Home Assistant. Instead of using the default, I'm using Zigbee to MQTT. There's a couple reasons for that. One, the device support seems a little bit better, and it just gives you a lot more settings and options. If we go over here to map, for example, you can see this absolute cluster of Zigbee crap. It makes it really nice to actually visualize what's going on here, and I can join specific devices to specific routers that you can see here. And they have a bunch of other features, kind of built-in tutorials on how to connect various devices. I was having issues with, I believe it was the door sensors, trying to get them to connect, and I switched a couple different things. This was one of them. I don't know if this is what fixed it, but I end up liking it better, so it's nice. And to connect my Zigbee devices, I am using this dongle, the Sonoff USB 3.0 dongle. Works great. I do have it right next to a Wi-Fi router, and it doesn't have any interference. I do have it on a little USB extender, and overall it has been working good. I also have this hub thing, which I am going to talk about a little bit later, but that's just to get one device to work. So going from here, I have this map open, and the one thing I do want to cover before I kind of go room by room is what I'm actually using as a router here. These right here are smart plugs, and I do have a couple switches that I will be talking about in a bit. Focusing on the smart plugs though, we are using these guys. This is the Third Reality Zigbee smart plugs. This was one of the things that I got to try to improve the Zigbee network overall, and they are working awesome. They're not too incredibly expensive. You get 4 of them for 30 bucks. They have good reviews. I went with them. I haven't had any issues. If I go over here, you can see I have one set as unknown. I just have that in a hallway closet in the utility room. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, so that's why it's unknown. I have one hooked up to a box fan in the bedroom, which is nice just to be able to tell Alexa or Google, turn on the box fan. We have one connected to a space heater in the living room, which is nice to be able to turn off remotely if we're not going to be home for a minute. And then we have one hooked up to a air purifier in the kids' room, which is also a really nice thing to be able to turn off just on the fly if we forget to. So from there, I'm actually going to go over to my overview here and kind of do this by the room. And the first room we're going to cover here is our living room, the room you first walk into. And I'm going to start by covering the closet bulb and really all the other light bulbs that I'm currently using. If I go over here and search bulb, you can see I'm using the Singled smart light bulbs, whether that be the colored or the just regular ones. It does look like the price has unfortunately gone up a little bit. I think it was like $29 when I bought it, but at basically 10 bucks a bulb, it's not too bad compared to some of the competitors such as Philips. And overall, especially after adding the routers, these have been working really good. I do have one of the non-colored ones in the closet, and this is paired up with this right here, the Aquara door and window sensor. And overall, this is just a really cool automation. The closet door is right right there. So you open it and it's set to automatically turn the light bulb on. The switch associated with that light bulb is just always in the on position. And if we go over here to our actual automation, so automation and scenes, we see right here closet door closed, closet door open. You can see last triggered 38 minutes ago, it was closed, and it's really simple. When the closet door is set to closed, then it will turn off the closet bulb light. Really simple automation, really cool. I did that because people were forgetting to turn it off, so the closet door is shut with the light on. Kind of silly, but I mean, why not? The whole point of having little things like this is either to fix problems or have a convenience factor to it, and it's definitely that. And again, basically everything that I'm going to be mentioning is going to be Zigbee unless if I say otherwise. So now back into the living room, we have the ceiling lights. Now this is probably my favorite light, and these are the Lutron Caseta smart switches, or smart dimmers, specifically in the living room and the bedroom and the kitchen all have these same dimmer switches. And when I first moved into the home, they had these dimmer switches, and I'm not sure if the previous people who lived here knew what they were, considering that they were left here, but I did end up having to buy this little kit right here, which came with the little hub. I was initially incredibly disappointed that I had to get the little Lutron hub to get everything to be able to coordinate with Home Assistant and actually have smart features. And I did get this little switch too that we will talk about, but when I got everything set up, it was phenomenal. This is the only devices that I have had absolutely no issues with whatsoever. Everything incredibly seamless, worked really good. It was really easy to set up that hub initially. I had no problems with it, and everything just works super quick. I mean, if I were to rewire every single switch in this house and I had money, that's another big problem with it. You can see not very cheap. If I had a bunch of extra money just laying around, I would go with these Lutron switches personally. The living room and kitchen have these really nice kind of recessed ceiling lights, and then in the bedroom it's just kind of a normal ceiling overhead light. And again, it's real nice to be able to control this from your phone or by using your voice. And of course we do have this switch, and I will tell you the automation once we get down to the garage. But I do need to take some time to talk about these shades real quick. In the living room specifically, we have the front shade, we have the large shade, which is just this massive window. We do have a kitchen shade as well as one of these shades in the bedroom, so 4 of them in total. These are the shades by SmartWings. They did send them over for a previous video, and they are so unbelievably convenient that it makes me sick to my stomach. Having smart shades, especially if you're not somebody who's like grew up with like really nice tech or things in general, is something you should have and experience. It is awesome. In addition to just general voice commands, I do have some pretty simple automations. You can get crazy with the automations, and I've seen some threads of people like automating it to position it perfectly where sun glare doesn't come into your house, but light does. There's a lot of cool things you could do with it. The only actual automation I have set up for this is right here, living room shades morning. We watch our daughter catch the bus through the window, so at 7:20, which is right when she heads out, it will trigger right here, cover, set position, front shade, and large shade, and it will set the position to 60%. So again, just another kind of simple time-based automation here. But again, the smart shades are definitely one of the coolest devices that I have up there. And like the one in the bedroom, I can't tell you how many times we tell Alexa to raise or lower it. And at least that integration is a percent value, so we'll say like Alexa, set the bedroom shade to 5%, and then it will kind of open it a crack, and you can play with it from there. So going down, we have the side table bulb. This one right here is a color changing one, so at night I'll like go ahead and make it like a really dim like blue, and it just kind of looks cool. We have the space heater toggle. We do have an air quality monitor that Quora sent over. It gives us our air quality reading right here, so we can kind of see what's going on in PPB. Air quality is pretty good, but if it ever spikes, I'll be able to see that. And it's not really linked up to anything at the moment. It's mostly for just informational purposes only at the moment, but eventually I might hook it into some other device somehow. And before we go ahead and move on, I do need to touch on this deadbolt. It's currently unlocked. And you see if I lock it, it doesn't work very good, or at least very efficiently. I did just upgrade the Matter server, so it might be a little bit better. I'm going to see if it actually locked. Quora Home. Hey, will you look at that? It did actually lock. You can see within the Quora Home, I have a lot of their devices, but the only things I have in here are the hub and the door lock. How the door lock works, unfortunately, doesn't like to just do a direct Zigbee connection to third-party dongles or USBs or anything like that. So this one was a lot more difficult to get set up. It's something that they wanted me to check out. I personally don't think I would have just purchased it on my own. But after getting the Matter server to work and all that, it has ended up being a pretty decent product. Granted, for a vast majority of the features, you are going to have to use their application, including setting up like fingerprints, setting up user passwords for people. It would be really nice if you could do all that within Home Assistant, but for at least this device, you cannot. And to get it to link up with Matter, which is going to be required, you're going to have to set up the hub, which is another expense, unfortunately. I mean, if you just went with all-out car, you could just use this and use their app, but that's not what we're doing here. So to get this to work with Home Assistant, you have to have their hub, their device, link up those through their app, and then you could set up a Matter server and then kind of get the most basic lock-unlock feature within Home Assistant, which is good because then you can integrate it with other things, but having more options and control within Home Assistant would be nice, especially for the price. And I do know there's other devices that support Home Assistant much better. This right here is the specific listing of the product. You can see $189, and you're going to have to go with this kind of bundle if you want it to work with Home Assistant, which makes it a staggering $214. Granted, it was pretty cool. It was really easy to install. It's sleek, it's clean, and personally with the combination of a car that doesn't require a key and now this, it's really nice just to not have to have keys on me at all. Granted, it does have a little thing. It's cool if you kind of slide down the faceplate, there is a spot to put a key, which it does ship with a pair of them. You could also link it up with your Apple devices, so like my wife has an Apple Watch and she could kind of just tap it to it, and it works pretty good. So that's about everything in the living room. So now what we're going to do is go to the kids' room, because I do have a very critical automation in there. In there within the overhead ceiling light, I have two of these, the singlet actual color changing bulbs. You could see about $15 per bulb, so an extra $5 if you want the color changing ones. And in there, if I go over to settings, go back over to my automation, and I have some scenes for these. I have two scenes. I have nightlight and playtime with some nice little customized icons. The nightlight, I currently have it set. Why is it not showing the color? That's weird. Ain't no way they broke it when I updated it. Ain't no way. See, color bulb here, but exposes. Where'd the color go? Bruh. Alright, so I fixed it. What I had to do is switch to the Edge version temporarily until this one's updated. And as you can see here, if I go back like side table bulb, look, we got some color. Beautiful. So back to what I was saying. If we go over to settings, we go over to automations and scenes, I have some scenes. Nightlight and playtime. Playtime, of course, is just kind of standard. We have 90%. Normal light color, but if we go over to nightlight, it sets the kids bulbs to a really low 1% kind of dark purple, thus acting as their nightlight. And then associated with this, we have a group. If we go back to our overview and under kids bedroom here, you can see the kid room lights. This is a group. It's the two bulbs put together, so when you control them, you don't have to like independently switch the color of each bulb. You can just do it together. Boom, and then you could see it switches both of the bulbs here. Turning this off turns both of them off, acting sort of like the switch for the overhead light that has the two bulbs in it. And overall, this is just really fun to play with my son. He's a toddler, so I switched the color. I let him kind of hit this color wheel on my phone and kind of play around with it. But there is an automation associated with it, so if we go up here to automation and scenes, we have the scene here, but if I go to automation, we could see kids room, light, wake up, kids bedtime light. So if I go over here, when the time is equal to 8 p.m., it's going to activate the scene of nightlight, which is what changes it to that kind of a really dark purple. So overall, that's fun, and I'll kind of think of more fun and creative ways to kind of build this up. But for now, it's just really nice that when the light changes at 8 o'clock, we know it's 8 o'clock, and that's when it's time to start getting ready for bed. And it's really cool because the kids know what that means. So going back over here, I'm going to turn those off real quick. What we're going to do is talk about the garage, and when you exit the kitchen and you go to the little staircase that has the garage, there's a bulb in there. There was renovations and remodels done, still kind of a work in progress here. And at the moment, there's a light switch in the kids' room that controls the bulb in the staircase, because the staircase used to be the location of the kids' closet slash laundry room, which has been moved. Eventually, I'm going to move the switch to a proper location in the actual staircase, but for now, we have an automation to help. The first motion sensors I purchased were right here from Third Reality Zigbee Motion Sensor 2-pack. They work really good. Compared to the Aquara one that I have here and I have in a location that I'll talk about, not really much difference other than the kind of form factor. But essentially I have one of these at the top of the staircase that controls the bulb that has the light switch in the kids' room. So it works, it all works out. So the bulb I'm talking about is right here. This is the staircase bulb. And again, if we go over to our automations and then go over here to staircase light automation, not used, that's not it. So it's this one, staircase motion with brightness. This was a script, a community script that I found, because you could do basic off and on automatically, but that bulb is pretty bright, and a lot of it going up and having the brightest light ever kind of turn on while it's in the middle of the night isn't fun, so we added this. It's a motion activated light brightness. The motion sensor is the staircase motion sensor that we went ahead and put there. It's going to go ahead and activate the staircase bulb, and then we have some times right here. So required time on night, 8:30 is when we consider it to be night, and then off night time is 6:30. So you can set the day brightness, 75%, and the night brightness, which is 1%, just enough to not fall down the stairs. And then we have the wait time here, so 60 seconds either way, so after 60 seconds it will go ahead and trigger that light off. Overall, this has been working very good, and that motion sensor is pretty good because it can see you when you start walking up the stairs and when you first enter the kind of hallway, staircase, kind of mud room that is the room. And it's saving me from having to do a whole wiring and drywall project, at least for now. And of course, that is not the only motion sensor in the garage. We do have two more motion sensors. In my garage, the light switches are in weird places, so not having to interact with them is nice. There are two bedrooms down here that weren't originally here, so the placement of the light switches makes more sense if you're like opening the garage door, and that's about it. So we do got another one of these guys sitting in a hallway that is connected to one of the bedrooms. So when somebody enters or exits that kind of hallway area, it's going to go ahead and flip on light switches for that hallway. And this one is not controlled with a bulb. This is another one of the, or not necessarily another one. This is the actual Lutron switch that I bought with the hub. Went ahead, put it over there. So that kind of activates because the switch is, again, not in the most ideal location if you actually want to turn it off and on exiting that room. So motion sensors does the trick. And again, absolutely no problem with this light switch. I do love the brand and all that, works phenomenally. Now, where I do have one of these is within our kind of pantry area. This one I set up with both one of these and two of these single wall switches with neutral, single rocker. In our little pantry area that also kind of leads to a half bath, there are three switches, one for the pantry, one for a over mirror light in the bathroom, and another for a fan. I connected both of the bathrooms to one switch and the pantry to its own. And overall, I am going to give a outstanding review to these guys right here, the Smart Wall Switch by Akara, because they act also as a kind of router that we saw earlier within the Zigbee network mesh map, which I'm very happy about. Once I add more of these in the house, I don't have to rely on those plugs as much, which is going to be a decent situation. But essentially, going back to my automation and scenes, here we have pantry motion activated 11 minutes ago. This one's a simple switch on. So motion activated switch on or light. And the switch is the pantry motion sensor, and it's going to switch on the pantry switch for 2 minutes and then turn off. And then I have another one, which is garage bathroom motion. This one does the exact same thing with the switch next to it, but this one lasts for 600 seconds because I don't want the light switch to turn on, turn off when somebody's in the bathroom, and it allows that fan to run for a little bit longer, which works out. And of course, you could always override these just by actually manually toggling the switch, and that will override the kind of time motion requirement. And how I have the actual little motion sensor placed, it's sitting kind of right on the pantry, so it won't really see you until you completely enter that area, which is good. I had it up above before, so it would kind of accidentally trigger if you're just kind of walking by it. So the placement of these is important. If we go over to the garage, you can see a lot of information here. I have monitor humidity, temperature, as well as pressure, air pressure. I have one of these. Again, it's another informational temperature and humidity sensor, just so I kind of have an idea of what's going on down here. This is another one unopened, and I do plan on putting this outside, so then I'll be able to monitor the temperature differences between the garage, the main level, as well as outside, and then eventually hook them up to some sort of air conditioning, heating stuff, which this house currently does not have. Thus the reason why we have like a space heater in here. Probably one of the most useful things, especially for the situation in the garage, is the Aquara button. There it is. This is one that they sent me, so I haven't purchased it myself, but it is the wireless mini switch. 3-way control, which is cool. I don't have the full 3-way control setup, but what I do have is a pretty cool situation. I have 3 of the bulbs down here in this garage. I have one over there, which is the kind of laundry area, and then I have 2 here. One is, I'm counting it as a utility light, and the other one's the studio bulb, as at least when it comes to the naming schemes, and we could see that here. This one says Nancy's bulb, but it has been moved, or her room has been moved to an actual room, so I will go ahead and rename that a bit later. But then we have the studio and utility bulb with the buttons, which I have one placed at one bedroom door because there's no light switch by it, and one placed at the bottom of the staircase. If you give it a single tap, it's going to toggle on or off the bulb that's the laundry bulb, and if you give it a double tap, it's going to toggle both the utility and studio bulbs, which are basically in the same area, giving you multi-bulb control from one single switch location. And we can see that in here, not in here. We could see that in here if we go to garage lights double button. So if I click this, you can see toggle when double action. We have 2 of them, when double action, device, either the garage button or the studio button. So the garage button is by the laundry, studio button is by a bedroom. Then do turn on toggle both the utility and studio bulb. And then of course we have the single press, which is right here, laundry light single button. If action, either of the buttons is a single action, then do turn on this bulb. And of course there's other options that I haven't really played around with, such as transition, brightness value. The button does have other actions, so there's a hold action, which I do want to play around with because it would be cool if I was able to do like a single hold to change the brightness of a bulb, whether that be plus or minus, depending on where it's currently set. But those are all things that I do plan on working out in the future. And then going from there, over here we see office. I have Elgato top and fill. Right now the top, if I turn it off, you could kind of see a difference. It's pointing at the background, and the Elgato fill is that light right there, which I probably should adjust to make it look not as dramatic. There we go, looks a little better. I need to play with my lighting a little more so I don't look so washed out. Boop! And then we have some more bulbs. These ones are again just the kind of normal singlet, non-color changing bulbs for outside. I have them automatically trigger so they're on at night, mostly as kind of like a security comfort thing. Which if I go to automation and scenes, you can see outdoor lights on, outdoor lights off. So when the sun sets, that is the time variable. Then both of these will turn on to set percentages, which I actually need to lower these because the bulbs themselves are pretty bright. And really that's about it. I have some cameras integrated in here. This one I kept on so you could kind of see, but I have disabled these because of security reasons. Which those cameras are currently Amcrest security cameras. Personally, I wouldn't really recommend them. Their app kind of sucks. They're just not that great. I'm using a Synology as the kind of surveillance station, which works really good. But then again, that has its own kind of license expense per camera, which works differently than most other platforms. There's pros and cons to it. I'll link to a video down below if you're interested in learning about that. And obviously I have not done any customization in this whatsoever. I do have a mushroom one right here that I just started playing around with. So eventually it will look pretty good. And if you're curious, if I just go to overview real quick and kind of show you how I have my IDs. So if I go to like this box fan, for example, this is entity ID switch. And then we have kind of location or room for the ID, room, area, device. That's kind of my current setup here. So if I go to like this utility bulb, for example, go over here, device type, room, area, device, just like that. And then like the first automated one is the sensor. So I can be a little more specific with the device. Deadbolt, I wonder if I actually ever did this. Yeah, see, living for the room, its location at the door, and it is a lock. So that's how I have my entity IDs set up if you were interested. And yeah, other than that, I have not really done too much customization in here. I haven't done nearly everything that I could do other than get these devices set up and get the most basic automations in which I highlighted in this video set up and working. So with that, all the Amazon links to everything that I have will be posted down below. They're going to be affiliate links, so if you purchase them through those links, it will help out the channel just a little bit, as well as links to any of the community scripts that I'm using that aren't built in. And one thing that I'm really curious about is if you guys have any suggestions on things that I should do, or any community scripts, automations, whatever, that I should be implementing with the devices that I currently have. I don't plan on buying any more until I get some of the ones that I'm not quite using yet integrated properly. But of course, if there are devices that you recommend that me try out, please leave them down below. One thing I am looking at getting is a little board thing for this LiftMaster garage door, so I can have that in the app. That would be super cool. I'm going to be switching my camera and security kind of system soon, so I'm looking forward to that. And with all that, I do hope you have an absolutely beautiful day. I do hope you enjoyed this video. It's given you some ideas, some things that you could do. And always make sure you check out the comments down below. A lot of the times I add some more information, pin something that I think about after the fact, so do check that out. And with all that, I do hope you have an absolutely beautiful day, and goodbye.